Hello, book lovers. I'm Kiki, and welcome back to my little corner on the internet. April is almost over. I have a super exciting May TBR, I think. There's some books on there that I'm looking forward to a lot, others which I'm a bit scared about, to be honest. But either way, it is super exciting. The only problem is, I have not finished my April TBR yet. It is Saturday, the 26th, in the evening. I have to be honest. I wanted to start those today in the morning, but it just didn't work out. So I have 4 days left of April. And officially, I have 3 books still on my April TBR. Unofficially, it's 4 because this book has technically been on my mental TBR every single month since November, since the 3rd book in the trilogy came out, and I still have not read it, and we need to change that. So I am going to try to finish these 4 books before the end of April, preferably by Monday night, which I'm not sure if that's going to work because that's 2 days. I'm not really counting tonight. I can start a book, but I will not be able to, really do much about it. I am sort of scared about these 2. It's the Odyssey and We Are All Birds of Uganda because they're more heavy-hitting. And then I've got Poem, which I am honestly going to audiobook because I have the audiobook of the updated version and this is the older version, but I do want to really listen to the updated version because I did that for the first book in the series as well, which is Moroda. So this is going to be mostly audiobook, which is great because I can just do that while doing other stuff. And then this I just feel bad about not having read yet, to be completely honest, because I love this author. Without this author, I would not be reading. So if you ever get a chance to read a Kerstin Gier book, go for it. I started reading with the Ruby Red trilogy. I have it on my Libby in English. I've actually been thinking about maybe listening to the audiobooks in English and see how well of a job was done with translating these books into English and conveying all of the everything, because I know these books by heart. So yeah, I think this is actually the only series that has not been translated yet into English for her YA books. She has a million older adult books with protagonists in their I think 40s, 50s or something, if I remember correctly, but I haven't read those. But anyway, I could probably do a whole video on just expressing my love for this author. But I think what I am going to start with tonight, because it's one of those things where I can stop when I want to, because it's the Odyssey. I have not read this, ever, which feels a little bit like a crime. I don't know why, but this is the Emily Wilson translation, and I am looking into getting the Iliad translated by her as well, and I cannot wait to read this because I have been reading so many Greek mythology retellings, and oh my god, the amount of times I have listened to Epic, the musical, is ridiculous, and it is based on the Odyssey, so sometimes I just burst into one of the songs from Epic, and my family looks at me like I have gone crazy. My mom actually laughed at me the other day, because I was listening to it vibing while I was playing Infinity Nikki, and I was just singing, and I cannot sing to save my life. And she came in and she looked at me and she just started laughing, and I was like, what? But anyway, this is what we're gonna start with. And I'm actually excited about this, but I am scared, like I said. So we'll see how long this will take and how much of this I will actually understand. I might actually have a better understanding of it now, having read so many like retellings and having listened to Epic than if I had read this first and then done all of that, but we'll see how it goes. So let's see how quickly and if I can finish these 4 books before the end of April. I really want to. I really want to challenge myself. Good morning. Last night, I managed to make it to page 48, which is like halfway through the introduction. And why? I was like, you know what? I'll read the introduction today so that I can like, and maybe the author's note, so that I can then properly start reading the Odyssey tomorrow. Oh, it's the translator's note. Yeah, not author's notes. That would be interesting. But like this, the Odyssey starts on page like 105. So before I can even really get started on that, I first need to read the rest. Okay, so I have made it through the introduction and the translator's note, and I have also read sort of the first book of the Odyssey, and I have to say that it is actually a lot easier to follow than I thought it would be. One of the reasons I was terrified of reading this is because like classics are sometimes so difficult for me to follow, and I can't get interested in what is going on. But this is actually not that difficult. I don't know if it's the specific translation that I'm reading or if it's just because it's not actually that difficult to read. But yeah, I'm positively surprised by this. But so far, so good. I'm so happy this isn't like an absolute mess to read. Yeah. I'm actually so excited about reading this now. Oh my god. Oh my god. Never be too scared to start a book, to pick up a book, because sometimes you will be positively surprised. I have read for about an hour and I have made it to page 180, which is where book 5 starts. I have actually made progress. It should take me another 2 hours and 20-ish minutes to finish this book, which I can technically do tonight, which I really want to. It's 8:15. So that would get me to like 11:15. I'm not gonna sleep before that anyway. So I'm gonna try to finish the Odyssey today. And then that's 1 book down. And it's the end of Sunday. I have not done what I've been wanting to do. I'm gonna continue reading this. I'm gonna have some fun with it. And I am having so much fun seeing the inspiration for a lot of like different books that I've read, or just shows and TV shows and movies and musicals, and it is so much fun. I'm almost enjoying it more for the fact that it is basically the source material of so many great books than for what it actually is. But I'm so happy I can enjoy it. I was so terrified of not enjoying it, and I think I might have to buy the Iliad as well. And she has translated another book. I saw that the other day. So I might have to look into maybe getting that as well, but we'll see. But I'm actually so excited, and I am so excited to reread this at one point and actually annotate it in a way that I want to annotate it, because I want to see if I can sort of pinpoint certain lines where I'm like, oh yeah, this actually relates to like this song in Epic, or like, oh my god, this is definitely something that I saw in this book or that book, because they talked about Clytemnestra for a second there. And I was like, ooh, we know her. And yeah, I'm enjoying this so much more than I thought I would. Not, like I said, not necessarily the reading of it itself and the book itself, but just what it gives me in relation to other books I've read. And that makes me so happy. So I'm gonna sit down and continue reading. It is update time. Last night I did in fact finish The Odyssey by Homer, translated by Emily Wilson, and I was so positively surprised by this book. I thought it would be such a chore to read, but it ended up not being that, and just like reading the source material for some books that I've absolutely loved, it was just incredible, and I understand so much more now in terms of like retellings, like where certain things come from, and I appreciate that so much. And I just I was so surprised by it, you know? I don't even know. This might, so far, have been the most positively surprising book I've read so far this year. Just because I was so terrified of reading it, it seemed so daunting, and I just didn't know what to do with myself. And now I have. And I'm like, maybe I like some other books as well. And now I'm excited about that. So, that was good. I think I gave it 3.75 stars. Wasn't quite the 4 stars because there were some things that were very repetitive in terms of phrases, and in the introduction this was actually talked about. And I think the author's, on that author's note, again, the translator's note as well, because she said that she tried to translate certain words to be less repetitive and be more relevant to the current scene, which I really, really appreciated. And it seems like such a big book, but because this one is like basically written like a poem, like an epic poem, you know, it ended up being a lot quicker to read than I had initially thought. I feel like the introduction and translator's note actually took almost as long as the whole Odyssey, which it didn't, but it felt like it. But yeah, I honestly highly recommend this book. I didn't think I would, and especially this translation. I haven't read any other translation, but also it's so pretty. It's got like deco edges. I don't know if you can see that. But anyway, let's talk about what I have done so far today. So far today, I started listening to Poem by L.L. McNeil, or L.L. McRae, and I got to where in this edition it would be around 131 pages. 132 is where chapter 8 starts. This is the old version, so the new version it would be chapter 10 or something, I think. And I DNF'd this, which means that I am also putting Amara and I think Issa is the 4th book as a DNF, because I had this with the first book, but back then I was like, you know what? Maybe it just wasn't the vibe, but like in that moment, or I just wasn't appreciating it because I couldn't read along while listening, or I don't know what was happening. But like, I thought it was a great start to the series, but I picked this up and I realized I just don't care. I cannot connect to these characters, and these are very heavily character driven. So it's like, as at least that's what it seems to me, because like we have different points of view without really marking them as different points of view, which is also something I don't love in a book. Like, if you have several characters that you are writing from, that was not English. If you have different characters and each character has their own point of view, make it absolutely clear. I think that is one of the things that was done in the like edited, like re-edited and republished version, because here, like within a chapter, you switch perspectives, and it's not necessarily the clearest thing, because I think it's marked with like a little just star. But during the audiobook, I was like, okay, no, it seems like one chapter is from this person's point of view, with this chapter from the others, etc. But I like it and really, really appreciate it if at the beginning of the chapter we are also told whose point of view we're like reading from right now, which is done in a lot of books nowadays, I feel, and it's not in this one. Granted, I got this in 2019, which means that it was published earlier. It was published in 2018, this version. So, you know, I wasn't vibing with it. I wasn't bonding, and I was sitting there contemplating DNFing it from chapter 1, and I was like, no, I can't do that. I need to actually give this a fair chance. And I did. I am like a third through the book, and I just can't do it, which is so, so sad. I am, for now, soft DNFing it, because I might want to try it again. But I DNF'd that, and then I decided to pick up We Are All Birds of Uganda, and I have gotten about 50-60 pages in, and so far I'm finding it so interesting. I panicked a little bit when I started reading this, because the first chapter is set in London, and I was like, I picked this as book set in a country I've not been to, because I was like, this has to be set in Uganda. In the back it says 1960s Uganda, and then I continue reading and it says present day London. I was stupid and didn't realize that it's set in 2 different times in 2 different countries, and panicked when I read the first chapter. And then I got to the second chapter, and that is the past. So actually, it's not the 1960s. Oh my god! This might actually change in how it's written, because right now, when we learn about things in the past, it is written as a letter. So the whole chapter is a letter that goes over a couple of pages, where we learn more about the character that is in the past. And right now it says, chapter 2 starts 15th of August, 1945. So, and I was like, oh, cool. And then I'm like, 1960s, that's not the 60s. But anyway, so far I am super intrigued. I really can't say much about it yet. I think that's part of the problem, why I'm, not really saying much. So far, I am enjoying myself, though, which is an amazing freaking sign, right? So, I do not think I will be able to finish this today, mainly because I still have some things I need to do, or at least things that I want to start today so I can continue them tomorrow. And I can't just listen to the audiobook of this. Like, this is definitely a book that I need to pick up and read while listening to the audiobook. So instead, I just realized I left the book all the way over there. But this is the last one that is officially on my April TBR. But like I said, I have one German book that I have been putting on my TBR every month for like the past 6 months or so. And I am going to start the audiobook for that because I want to try to finish this and the German book by tomorrow evening, if I possibly can. I am out half of the day tomorrow. So I don't know how much time I will have, especially to read. But I am hopeful. And if not, there is one day more that I would have in April to finish those 2 books. And that would also be the first month in, I think, quite some time that I will start with a completely clean slate. Like, I have read every single book that I've started so far, because I had Throne of Glass on my currently reading paused list for a couple of months now, and I've always sort of had a book roll over into the next month and whatnot, and I finally managed to get that down. But also, this video is showcasing so nicely how I typically read, because I never just read one book at a time. I always have, like, if I'm not reading a book where I can just switch to the audiobook when I'm not physically reading it, I always have at least one audiobook on the side that I can just listen to while doing things that is just purely audiobook. And then I also generally have, like, especially if it's a little bit of a heavier hitting book, I have one of those, and then like a light fantasy or a romance or something on the side. And I just constantly have so many books on my currently reading list that I get stressed about it. And I am so happy that for the first time in forever, I actually will probably start a new month with a clean slate, which is also great because my May TBR is massive. Is that my own fault? Of course it is. And yet, it is massive. If you haven't watched my May TBR, I'll link it down below, but I'm gonna get started. So, starting this may have been a little bit of a mistake on my part because I don't really want to pick this back up. I really want to continue reading this. I do not know what it is about her writing, but it always just sucks me right into the story, and it always feels so nostalgic. I'm actually tearing up a little bit because I love her books so much. They always, even the new ones, they always remind me of why I started reading and why I love reading so much. And it is just I love these. Like, I have not gotten far into the book. I'm on page 65, and remember how it was like, I like it when we know whose perspective we are, like, in. This book doesn't even have, like, chapter numbers. It's literally just whoever, like, is currently telling the tale. And I find that super interesting as well, because it's like, I can't even be like, oh, I'm on chapter this and that. No. I'm just on Matilda's chapter, or I'm on Quinn's chapter. It's Quinn, right? Yeah. And that is so cool as well. And I should read this. But I really want to read this. So I'm gonna read this. Because I know I can read this tomorrow morning. And then I can still read it the day after as well. Good morning. So I have decided that I will use every single free minute of the day today to either continue listening to the audiobook of this or read this, depending on what I'm doing. And anyway, I was listening to this, and then suddenly there was an explanation for how the whole of like the Silver trilogy works in this. And so I had to actually tab it because I was like, I was in a live stream of the author when she announced that there would be a rework of the trilogy that got me into reading. And she talked about how all of the books are connected through basically what is happening and like what we learn in this trilogy. Also, this book, it's like the first one was good, right? But I don't know, something was missing for me. But this one, I want to continue. I do not want to stop reading it. So I'm gonna continue and be happy about it because I mean, it's going to be annoying because I will probably just finish this and then I will have this left, but that is okay because I am actually quite interested in this. It's just, I always love being able to read more books by authors that I absolutely love because it gives me back that like pure joy of reading, if that makes sense. Like, when Ali Hazelwood surprise announced that there's going to be a book like next month or something that comes out, I was like, yes! Because I love her books. I can't even tell you. But this feels so much like coming home. Okay. I was making lunch and then I just had lunch, and as I was making it, I ended up finishing Vergiss mein nicht, was bisher verloren war by Kerstin Gier. And first of all, that cliffhanger, how dare she? I am so glad that I in fact did not read this when it came out because there was a delay in publishing for the third book. I don't quite remember why, but it would have been like a year and a half or so that I would have had to wait to read the third book, which would have been so bad for me. I would not have been okay with that. But this was so good. I think I'm gonna give it 4.5 stars. I actually enjoyed this more than the first one, which is like, what? And I am just very excited to actually finally read the third book now. Finally, I say that. It came out in November, okay? It's just, I'm a little slow when it comes to reading new releases. Mostly because I'm just really bad at keeping up with what is being released. And then I just need to actually finish books that have been on my TBR for like years and years and years. But I'm so glad I finally picked this up because it was so good. I am so happy. Like I said, this just reminds me so much of how and why I started reading, and I feel like we need that in our lives. Like every once in a while, we need a book that is just the pure embodiment of like the reason you started reading, or like a book basically like similar to what you started reading with, if that makes sense. And it's just, I desperately want to meet her and be able to express how thankful I am to her taking the like leap to actually write young adult, because I will be forever and ever grateful to her for writing these books. So, as excited as I was about potentially going into May with a clean slate, I don't think that's going to be possible, because as I was reading this last night, I realized that this is one of those books that I cannot binge, like at all. First day I read this, I read about 50, 60 pages. Yesterday I read about 50, 60 pages. I don't think I will be really able to read more than maximum 100 pages in one day in this book, and I'm not going to stress myself out about it too much. I have started it. I can read this as like my nightly book for the next week or so, because by then I should be done with it. But this is too heavy hitting and just too mentally you need brain power for this, right? And I don't necessarily have that for a prolonged period of time. So I'm going to continue reading this, but I will not be finishing it today. But because I need a cutesy little book that I can read and listen to as I'm doing stuff, because honestly, if I don't have an audiobook in, I don't know what I'm doing with my life at this point. So I decided to start Amari and the Despicable Wonders, which is a short book. I'm like, I'd say a quarter into it. And it is the last one that's currently out in the Amari series. So this would also be finishing a series for me until the next one comes out, whenever that will be. At least if the rumors are true, because the author said that there would be 2 more books in the series potentially. So we'll see how that works, but already I am enjoying this so much. The writing is so nice. This is a middle grade. It, like in the book, it actually says ages 8 to 12, and it is so easy to read. I love the characters, and it's going to be interesting to see how this book ends now that it's technically not the last in the series. So I wanted to update last night. However, I was bawling my eyes out by the time I finished this, and I wasn't able to. But I did in fact finish this last night. Oh my god, I'm gonna cry again. Like, I was fully prepared for something to happen, and then it didn't happen. But something else happened, and because I was fully prepared for something, which wouldn't have made any sense whatsoever, thinking about it. I wasn't prepared for the other thing to happen, and that other thing broke me because I wasn't prepared for it. And I wasn't expecting that, like, at all, whatsoever. Yeah, overall, I really like these books. These are amazing. It's like, I can't even describe it, but they're so nice and easy to read, but there is still like a certain level of character and world building, which I appreciate so much. I don't know, I can't really say what I mean, because like in my head it's just a big mess. It's all jumbled up, but like I do really, really, really love these books. They're like, I've seen these in videos where it says like, okay, let's talk like sort of magical school or like camp things that we can read instead of Harry Potter. And this is always on top of the list for like younger audiences, and I 100% agree. This is so good. So yeah, honestly, if you have not tried this yet, go and check it out. It is so, so good. The audiobooks are also really, really well done, in my opinion. Like, they're so easy to follow. It is wrap-up time. So, I said that I needed to finish these 4 books to really finish my April TBR, and I'm gonna go with I did it. Although, you know, technically I didn't 100%, but in no particular order, I finished this wonderful, amazing book. I gave it 4.75 stars. It didn't quite give me that 5-star feeling, so it's not a full 5-star, but it was great. The storyline continued so wonderfully, and I can say it over and over and over again, but I just love Kerstin Gier's writing. She will forever and always be one of my favorite authors. She could probably write one of the worst books ever, and I would still love it just because of how much her writing means to me, and I can honestly only really recommend her books, especially for like a young adult audience. They're amazing. Then, probably one of the most positively surprising books I've read so far this year, The Odyssey by Homer, but translated by Emily Wilson. I gave this 3.75 stars. I honestly didn't think I would enjoy this, like, at all, but it was so wonderful to, like, actually read through the source material for so many, so many of books that I love. Like, it's just, I love Greek mythology, and, like, this doesn't even, there's no Percy Jackson on there, no Rick Riordan, right? So, like, that's... Actually, a lot of that is on my read shelf. I made a read in 2025 shelf, and I think I might have to actually increase the amount of shelves I use for that, because they're getting full, which is great. Makes me feel super good, but yeah. It might get a bit stuffy, but anyway... Super, super positively surprised about this. It was actually so much easier to read than I thought it would be, and just seeing the inspiration for Epic, the musical, as well, freaking amazing. So, yeah, loved that. And then I picked up Poem by L.L. McNeil, and unfortunately I DNF'd this, which means that I DNF'd the whole World of Lunaria series. At least for now. I am just having trouble with the fact that it is very much character driven, and I'm used to more of a plot driven and world building driven fantasy storytelling, and I think that I might want to try these again in a couple of years once I've maybe read a few more books where it's like really heavily character driven, because I couldn't connect to these characters like pretty much at all. So it was difficult to get into the story and actually enjoy and appreciate the bits of the world building that were in there, just because they were always told from the characters, like just saying things or like talking, it's just like wasn't for me right now, and I really, really hope that maybe it will be for me at a later point. Now, the last book on my TBR for the last like 5-ish days of April was We Are All Birds of Uganda by Hafsa Zayan. I'm so sorry. So sorry. And I'm reading this. I started it, and I realized after picking it up for the second time or so that this is a book that I cannot binge. Like, I need brain power, mental stability, and just enough time to read it. So I am counting this as a success because I actually started it. And this has been on my TBR since March 2022, maybe, I want to say. Maybe longer. I'm not 100% sure though. And it's just the act of actually going to pick it up is always, like, for some books is so difficult, and sometimes they end up becoming some of my favorite books, and then I'm like, why did I wait so long to pick this up, right? But I can only ever read a few chapters at once in this because it is quite heavy hitting sometimes. And yeah, so I am really looking forward to continuing with this though. But because I felt bad that I knew that I wouldn't finish this, I ended up picking up a completely different book, which was Amari and the Despicable Wonders by B.B. Alston. And I can't really talk about this book yet because it's still so fresh, and I start crying every single time because of the end. And I'm a crier when it comes to books. Like, I am so easy to make just bawl my eyes out. So I gave this 4.5 stars. And I cannot wait to hear more about Amari's story and her friendships and her relationships with her family and just the Bureau, the magical world, like everything. I'm so, so excited. And now I just need to actually wait for the next book to be properly announced, because there are going to be more. But I'm not sure we know when. If we do, please let me know. But right now, I think we don't. But I also feel really, really bad for one character that, like, I'm mad, but I'm also so sad for that character. So it's going to be interesting. This also actually means that I technically got 2 series off of my series list. So if you're watching my trying to get through the 120 series, I'm reading and half of my TBR series. You know what I mean. I can technically cross off 2 more. So at the start of the next video, I'm gonna have to do a count and see where I'm actually at, because I feel like I've started something new, but I've also finished anyway. Because I actually ended up finishing 4 books, because DNFing is still finishing. I started a 5th, and because I DNF'd, I get to DNF these 2, which are absolute bricks, by the way. That means... How many books do I have on my physical TBR right now? Because that would actually be good to know. Not... Technically, this is off of my physical TBR because I'm currently reading it. But if we count this as still TBR because I haven't finished it, I'm at 238 books. which I don't know if this is more or less than the last time, because I really have no sense of time or numbers. So I hope it's less, and I hope you enjoyed. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please consider giving it a thumbs up and maybe subscribing, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!